for a strong to severe storm. We're on your side with what we're currently tracking and what we can expect for another first alert weather day for your Saturday.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
But first, here's a live look right now from Leeds Primary School after it was struck by lightning when a severe thunderstorm came through. One teacher was in the building at the time and was able to get out of the building safely. She was able to call the authorities to let them know about the situation. Well, welcome into Weather Extra this evening. Hope y'all like me because I'm the only one here right now. But it is a first alert weather day, so we are so thankful that we have this 30-minute show to track the storms for you and get you prepped for that severe weather threat this weekend. Let's get a live look right now at where some storms are moving through. Checking out Jacksonville State University. I gotta say, our two sky cams that we have at Jacksonville State, I think are some of our most beautiful. So we've got a thunderstorm that is moving through Calhoun County right now, and you can see the raindrops on the sky cam. And we also have another shot as well from Jacksonville State. So this rain is going to be heavy at times, and this actually is a severe thunderstorm that's moving through. But I think Jacksonville State, you're kind of on the tail end of that storm. The most intense part of the storm is actually to the north of you. But a first alert for some lightning moving through when thunder roars. Go indoors. So first alert AccuTrack right now is showing that real thunderstorm of note up in northeast Alabama, but we also have a few widely scattered thunder showers a little farther to the south and west. Let's zoom in on this one, and they actually did expire the severe thunderstorm warning, so that's good news here. But regardless, a storm doesn't have to be severe to produce some intense lightning, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, check it out. This one thunderstorm that is moving through is producing over 500 lightning strikes. So this means business as it's moving eastward into far east Alabama. So you can see that intense lightning near Jacksonville and then also a little closer to center. So this is moving away. The most intense part of the storm is beginning to move away from Gadsden and the Coosa River, but a first alert for areas like Powell, Center, over towards Coldwater and Burns. This is going to be headed your way and bringing some heavy downpours, possibly some small hail and some frequent cloud to ground lightning. Now, as we look back a little farther to the west in T-Town, we've got an intense thunderstorm moving through. This is also producing over 60 lightning strikes, so maybe not quite as much as the other one, but likely some very heavy rain that is falling right now along I-20, and this is stretching all the way down to just north of Duncanville along Highway 6. So this is pushing eastward. A first alert for areas like Brookwood, Birchfield. This is going to be moving your way, but those are really the only storms of note right now. So today, that first alert weather day is just for an isolated severe risk. For Saturday, it likely will be a little bit more widespread, and the main things we want to watch as we go into Saturday, just like we've seen today, lightning is probably going to be the most prolific risk with these storms that move in tomorrow afternoon from about 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. And then as far as a severe threat, damaging winds are going to be the main concern. There's also the possibility we could see some large hail, some isolated flooding, but in general, those risks are looking a little bit lower. So if you don't already got to have that WBRC First Alert Weather app as we go into tomorrow, I still want to stress that tomorrow, I think it is going to be a bit more of a risk than what we've been seeing today. Still going to be a lightning risk, but today there hasn't been as much in the way of damaging wind gusts. I would certainly be mindful that those could be something you're going to have to be dealing with for tomorrow. And so going into tomorrow, we always want to give you that first alert so you have plenty of time to prepare. I want to bring up behind me some severe weather tips, and this is the time of the year where we're moving away from a tornado risk, and more so when you get into those summertime severe threats. It would be hail early on in the season and damaging wind gusts from any intense storms that develop. There's just a lot more heat and moisture in the atmosphere, and that can oftentimes lead to a wind threat. So for tomorrow, what do you need to do? Of course, today we've got a first alert weather day for that isolated risk, but since it looks potentially a little bit more widespread tomorrow, make sure that NOAA weather radio is good to go. And honestly, that'll be good to have over the next week because we're still going to be seeing an unsettled pattern, and we can't rule out a chance of strong storms each day. So that will help let you know if there's a severe thunderstorm in your area. But we always preach, have that first alert weather app too. And then because we have a wind risk tomorrow, and we've been obviously having a very wet pattern in place, especially in May, a record-breaking wet May in some spots, make sure you charge your devices. You may wonder, well, what does that have to do with it being wet outside? Well, the ground is already so saturated. So if we get some intense winds coming through tomorrow, that can knock down trees and power lines, and that can cause even just spotty power outages. So you want to make sure you charge your devices. And if you have any loose items outside, plants, patio furniture, what have you, make sure those are secure as well. But as I mentioned, download that WBRC First Alert Weather app. You can scan the code on your screen to get it from your phone's app store. You'll be able to get real-time updates as severe weather moves through the area. And with these storms comes the chance for power outages. As I mentioned, Alabama power crews are preparing now for any possible outages. Your reporter Jillian Brooks joins us now with how they are planning to keep the lights on.
As we speak, crews with Alabama Power are on standby for strong storms.
Alabama Power is prepped and ready for the storms that are about to hit the state this weekend. I feel like every weekend has been a due storm.
Senior communications specialist Tisha Wallace says their storm center actively monitors the system to see where crews may be needed based on the route and severity.
We take an all-hands-on-deck approach to getting power restored as safely and quickly as possible. Our crews, our linemen are prepared and ready to go.
Alabama Power also utilizes technology that restores power automatically, with the hope that your power isn't out for an extended period of time.
It can kind of just isolate out whatever outage it is and work on that so that the rest of the system stays online and that like a whole neighborhood doesn't go out of power.
Wallace says you can also prepare for this stormy weekend by putting more than just a flashlight nearby.
Things like getting you an emergency kit ready, having things like a helmet, a whistle in case you get trapped somewhere, have your medicine, have water, have batteries, have flashlights.
Well, one reason we're actually going to be seeing severe storms tomorrow is because today it has been so ridiculously hot. I know the past couple days we've had storms around, or we've had at least clouds around. That has helped to keep the temperatures down. Today the sun said storms aren't here yet, so we're just coming out in full force. And that is why, as we look at the high temperatures we had today across the area, specifically in Birmingham, we had a high of 90 degrees. And believe it or not, today is the first day we have hit 90 this season, and it's the first day we've hit 90 degrees since last September. If y'all remember, I certainly remember, last September was ridiculously hot. So figures that early June, we finally had our first 90-degree day. And we'll continue to see the possibility of heat tomorrow before those storms come in. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow, early afternoon, we're talking about maybe around 1 o'clock before the storms arrive, some spots could hit the low 90s. And even if you don't hit the 90s, remember, the humidity is so high, it could feel like the 90s at least. Well, as those wildfires continue to blaze across Canada, some residents are being allowed to return to their homes after being evacuated. An evacuation order for the northern Saskatchewan community was lifted Thursday, allowing residents back for the first time in a week. More than 10,000 people were forced from their homes. 27 wildfires were burning in the Canadian province as of Thursday afternoon, with 6 of them still not being contained. And those wildfires also causing problems throughout Chicago. The Windy City under an air quality alert until later this evening. Air in most of Chicagoland is considered unhealthy for all, with residents being advised to stay inside. Those who must go outside are cautioned to wear a mask and shower as soon as they get indoors. I think all of us should shower when we get indoors tonight. It's been so ridiculously warm and humid. Well, in 30 seconds, we update you on the latest timing for Saturday's First Alert Weather Day and take you beyond the atmosphere to the final full moon of spring. We'll be right back. Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan here. We've been tracking a few thunderstorms. Remember, today the First Alert Weather Day is in place for an isolated severe risk. But this storm that we're tracking right now in East Alabama, it's not severe, But my goodness, is it packing a punch? I mean, you can see we are detecting the potential. Let me actually zoom in here because this is catching some storms that are in North Georgia. Okay, so in this view alone, we've got 550 lightning strikes just from this one storm. And as we were mentioning earlier, we have had reports of lightning striking a school in Leeds. And this is from that same storm. So these storms in the summertime, when it's so hot and humid, that just adds fuel to the fire. That really energizes these storms and allows lightning to become more prevalent. So this is moving to the east-northeast, and we'll actually get some first alert times for you. First, let's look at this little portion of the storm that's moving through Gadsden right now. It should be moving into Glencoe around 6:50. A first alert for Pine Grove 6:50 as well, and Ewing around 6:53. The main threat with this storm is going to be some heavy downpours, intense cloud to ground lightning, and also the possibility of some small hail. Well, we weren't the only ones under the threat of severe weather today. The town of Van Buren in Arkansas being impacted by a system of storms that moved in from Oklahoma. It brought heavy rain and damaging wind gusts, including one tornado. Officials say nearly 46 structures were damaged in the area. And the heavy rain across North Carolina causing extensive flooding. We covered this yesterday actually on Weather Extra, and this right here was the scene out of Lee County Thursday afternoon in the Carolinas. Emergency management and other response groups conducted several water rescues across the Sanford area. They asked residents to use caution traveling through the city as they were also impacted by downed power lines and trees. And the flooding coming on the heels of state leaders preparing for this year's hurricane season while still in the restoration and recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Michael Perchik has the latest.
As the western part of the state continues its recovery efforts in time for tourists, state officials are outlining their preparations for this year's potential storms.
We are as focused as ever on keeping you safe.
NOAA's National Weather Service is predicting above normal hurricane activity in the Atlantic Basin this year, forecasting 13 to 19 total named storms, of which 6 to 10 could become hurricanes, including 3 to 5 major hurricanes. Just months following Hurricane Helene, the deadliest and costliest storm in state history, Emergency Management Director William Ray says lessons learned from the storm means a changed response.
We've restructured our cross-training program. We've restructured some of the exercises we're doing both internally as well as with our state partners to take a specific look into some of the areas and functional areas specifically that we know were a challenge during Helene, like critical infrastructure.
Now they're working with DOT to place equipment ahead of the storm and make sure folks can get out in case of a disaster.
How can we bolster the flood gauges that we have across the state to make sure we're getting good data? How do we also maximize the alert and warning systems associated with those gauges? From a redundant communication standpoint, how are we equipping local communities to make those decisions and have the technology that they need to quickly issue those orders? Here in North Carolina,
Governor Josh Stein critical of cuts to FEMA, now looking towards legislatures on Jones Street with budget negotiations underway.
We will need more state funding, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars more in our state's rainy day fund.
And taking you beyond the atmosphere now, away from Earth's surface, prepare for the last full moon of the season. The strawberry moon will happen early on June 11th, so that's less than a week from now. It'll be the lowest full moon of the year, and the best time to see it will be next Tuesday night, so hopefully we won't have any rain and storms around. If you capture the moon, though, be sure to share it on the First Alert Weather app for a chance to be featured right here on First Alert Weather Extra. And don't go anywhere. We bring you the First Alert for the chance of more storms as we head into next week. Womp womp. And take you from the skies to the water as we explore the deep blue sea in this week's Moment of Science. We'll be right back. Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan here. Wanted to give you an update on our First Alert sky vision views from Jacksonville State. If you remember at the start of the show, it was pouring rain. We were seeing a little bit of lightning. Now that rain has lightened up a little bit as that storm moves off to the east. So as we look at First Alert AccuTrack right now, we've got a couple of widely scattered thunderstorms that are moving through near I-20, one near Tuscaloosa, and then some a little farther to the south of Centerville and southwest of Clanton. But really the storm of note that we've been focusing on has been moving through East Alabama, and as these storms come through, they're really helping to cool things off. But this particular storm, it doesn't have a severe thunderstorm warning on it anymore, but it is producing almost a little over 500 lightning strikes stretching from Cedar Bluff all the way down to Fruithurst. So looking at some of those first alert times, moving into Piedmont at 6:55, Liberty Hill 7:03, and Brantley around 7:06 p.m. The main threat with this storm is going to be that intense cloud to ground lightning. You want to make sure you go indoors, seek safe shelter. It's moving to the east at about 20 miles per hour. Could also be producing some hail, but as we look a little farther to the north along this line, right around center along Highway 411, this is continuing to push towards the Georgia state line. So areas like Northwood Estates moving in at 6:53, a first alert around Weiss Lake around 6:54 p.m. and that's moving at about 30 miles per hour. So very intense storm moving through East Alabama, but I think we could see some more intense storms for tomorrow. Notice the severe risk highlights a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk where you see the orange showing up here on the screen. Our main concern tomorrow, in addition to lightning, which doesn't make a storm severe, but it can certainly make it impactful, is going to be damaging winds and a lower risk for large hail. These storms will likely come in from the northwest and push to the southeast from about 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. So as we go into tonight, we're likely just going to be seeing isolated thunderstorm coverage. But as we get into your Saturday morning, we start off dry. By lunchtime tomorrow, we could already see some storms approaching northwest Alabama. And then this cluster of storms, typically when they move through, they can intensify. And so that's why we want to watch for that potential for damaging straight line winds on the order of 60+ miles per hour, but also the possibility to pack a punch with some hail. So by the time we get closer to sunset, these storms will be moving through East Alabama, and then I think we can briefly sound the all clear before another storm cluster could come through early Sunday morning. That one we're not looking as much in the way of a severe threat, but you still just want to make sure you're paying attention to things. Now, the Alabaster City Fest tomorrow, if you're going to be going to that at Thompson High School, make sure you pack the rain gear, but you'll be in good hands. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt will be there for the USFL Conference Championship on Sunday at Protective Stadium. It looks like there could be a better chance for rain earlier in the day, maybe more isolated in the afternoon. But notice by Monday, we have a first alert for strong storms again. Looking at that 7-day forecast, the weather pattern stays very unsettled, potentially a touch cooler with more rain and storms around next week. Well, plunging into the abyss, Dan Smith shows us how limited our knowledge of the deep sea really is in this week's Moment of Science.
Being land mammals, we've known for a while that Earth's surface is about 2/3 covered in water. But how much of the world's deep seas do you think we've explored?
We hear we've seen 10% or we've seen 5% or we've seen 1%, and nobody's actually sat down and done the math.
Dr. Katie Croft Bell founded the Ocean Discovery League, and she's the lead author of the paper, How Little We've Seen, a visual coverage estimate of the deep sea floor. It may surprise you to learn all those figures she mentioned are still way too high. By their estimate, just 0.001% of our planet's deep ocean has been explored. In the proud American tradition of comparing sizes to either Texas or Rhode Island, our map seafloor comes in very close to the latter.
We actually calculated that 0.001% two different ways. The first was by taking a sample of 3 oceanographic institutions based in the United States who have been doing this sort of work for over 10 years. So they have, records of thousands of dives.
Their estimate using only U.S. data seems staggeringly small at first, so they emailed every institute on Earth they could think of and came up with more than 43,000 other recorded dives.
This way was based on actual dive track records, so how much area a vehicle covers on a single dive.
From camera landers going straight up and down to remotely operated vehicles to crewed submersibles, the team counted visuals all the way back to 1958 and came up with an even smaller number this time.
Went with a bigger number, assuming that we didn't get all of the dives in the world and that it might be a bit of an underestimate.
Dr. Bell says knowing where we've already been in the first 70 years of deep sea mapping is key to figuring out where to go next.
How can we do this in a more systematic and strategic way so that we can get a much less biased and much more representative look at the global deep sea?
But what exactly counts as a deep sea dive?
Deep ocean we consider below 200 meters. So from 200-meter water depth all the way down to almost 11,000 meters. And the hotspots we're seeing are mostly in the waters of the United States, Japan, and New Zealand. And most of the rest of the world is almost completely unexplored.
Cost is a factor, hence why the hotspots tend to reside near higher income and higher resource countries.
With money as no object, I would definitely invest in lower cost, more accessible technologies, and we'll be able to get those all over the world and explore more and start to ask questions that we haven't even thought about.
I've made the comparison before that we've explored more of the deep universe than the deep sea, though as Dr. Bell points out, the crushing depths are much different than the vacuum of space.
It's similar to imaging the surface of Earth, but to be able to image the bottom of the ocean, you've got to physically get through the water. So that's why we need these vehicles and cameras and all these other technologies to be able to get down there. And it's really incomparable.
While Dr. Bell knows we've come a long way, she also knows we've got 99.999% of the way to go.
What I'm most excited about is the development of new technologies and the expansion of the deep sea community around the world.
For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Ooh, love it. A rainbow pic. Looking at some of those viewer photos on the First Alert Weather app. That one is sent in from Leanne Blair in Clay County. And wow, gorgeous views of the sunset over the Anniston Airport, sent in from Lynn Burrell. And then Laura Roper with this gorgeous sunset in Stevenson. Wow, I love the colors on that shot. And then we have another one as well from Jessica Self. This is sent in a view from McAllister, Montana, and that is big sky country. You see why? Sky looks pretty big there. And then our friend Aisha sending this in, a rainbow in Munford. Beautiful shots of those rainbows. And I think we actually had one pop up this evening, one over the Magic City. How gorgeous is that? And that was sent in from our very own meteorologist, Tania Michelle, our new mama who's enjoying maternity leave right now. Tania, I wish you were here doing the show with me, but glad you were enjoying your time at home with your husband and baby girl. Let's get a look at that 7-day forecast as we head into the weekend. Of course, today, a first alert weather day for an isolated severe risk, but again tomorrow with the possibility of more widespread severe storms, but keeping that elevated storm risk through Monday, more storms next week. We'll have updates on your forecast tonight starting on First at 9. See you then. Be safe.